This is a research report from 2035, and Bitcoin is at $10,000. It peaked at 250. It's now $10,000, and all Bitcoin is financial blather and computers turned on 24/7. It has absolutely no value, but there's still cultish stalwarts that are in Bitcoin. Okay, so a guy like him, as smart as he is to say that, tells me three things. Number one, he hasn't studied Bitcoin. Number two, he has no real uh, understanding for that network. He has no real understanding for the advancement of that network. And then the last piece is he missed it. Okay. And sometimes when people miss things, they dig in rather than flip over and say, hey, you know what? Bitcoin's really going from 100 to 200,000. I'm going to own some Bitcoin. You miss something, you get emotionally charged and you get defiant. You start pissing into the wind, if you will.
Anthony Scaramucci, former White House communications director and financier, recently appeared on the popular YouTube channel Altcoin Daily for an exclusive interview. Anthony Scaramucci provided expert opinion on the current situation of the cryptocurrency sector and its prospects. Scaramucci's unique blend of financial knowledge and political savvy provided a comprehensive take on the elements that will determine the future of Bitcoin and the broader crypto ecosystem. One issue that caught his interest was a research paper by Cliff Asness, a notable investor, that predicted an ugly future for Bitcoin. According to Asness's study, written from a futuristic perspective, Bitcoin peaked around $250,000 before dropping to $10,000 and becoming worthless. Scaramucci had some choice words for Asness's evaluation, and his answer offers valuable insights into the ongoing debate about Bitcoin's value and potential. As we bring you clips from the interview, please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
I probably owe Donald Trump a Christmas gift. Like, him and I don't talk anymore, so I didn't give him one. But, he came in July. You were there. I was there. He gave a speech about crypto. He was a little funny and flippant at the end. I don't remember the speech, but he said, go have fun with your Bitcoin or something like that. And he's not, in my mind, knowing the family for 3 decades, he's not the Bitcoiner in that family. And so the Bitcoiner in that family, the real disciple, the fully orange pilled person, Trump is painted orange, but Eric Trump is orange on the inside. Okay. He is a full on, he's almost like a Bitcoin maximalist. You and I have other coins. That's why you're called altcoin, but he sees it. And I got the chance to see Eric's speech in Abu Dhabi at the Bitcoin conference in MENA. And, he sees the opportunity, the long-term opportunity. So I can't predict Bitcoin markets near term. I made a very silly mistake a few years ago, Austin, where I said, okay, if Bitcoin's 69,000 and the futures just got approved, it's November of 2021. Well, then knowing what I know about administrative law, the cash or spot ETF for Bitcoin will be approved in February of 2022. And I got that wrong because of the arbitrary, capricious nature of Gary Gensler and the menacing nature of their anti-crypto stance for no reason. It cost them the House, it cost them the Senate, cost them the American presidency. The Democrats got destroyed, and even their own consultants and political analysts now say, what value was it to be so anti-crypto? What vote did we gain? What electoral vote did we gain? The answer is no votes. In fact, you knocked Sherrod Brown, who was a 3-term veteran, chair of the Senate Banking Committee. You knocked him back into Ohio with your silliness and your nonsense. So when I make predictions now, I'm always thinking about those rock slides that happened to me in 2021. But what I do like is what I know about Washington, and that is that people are policy. If you say to me, well, what is the policy of the Trump administration? Well, who are the people? And if we go down the list categorically, these are pro-Bitcoiners. Howard Lutnick at Commerce, Scott Bessent. Scott gave a beautiful interview before he was named or nominated to be the Secretary of the Treasury about Gensler. And he was very honest about it. He said, these guys were tight with Sam Bankman-Fried. They were tight with Sam Bankman-Fried's parents. Sam Bankman-Fried blew up. And in order to shield themselves from a potential attack due to their closeness, They went super hard indiscriminately at an industry for personal political reasons to eclipse the news stories around them being so close to the Bankman-Frieds. And I said, wow, Scott really gets it. I mean, he really understands where we are. So when you step back and you look at it and you look at Paul Atkins at SEC and Trump himself, I think there's going to be three or four big things that happen. And I think there'll be three or four pieces of legislation that happen. And I'm not going to say that Bitcoin's going to go straight up in 2025, but could Bitcoin have a $200,000 handle by the end of the year? Yes. Could we have a stop at 70 on the way there? Certainly, because it's just the way the nature of Bitcoin and the volatility of Bitcoin and still the lack of understanding. I have a buddy of mine, he's my age. His name is Cliff Asness. He just put out a research report. He's running billions of dollars. And he said, this is a research report from 2035, and Bitcoin is at $10,000. It peaked at 250. It's now $10,000. And all Bitcoin is financial blather and computers turned on 24/7. It has absolutely no value, but there's still cultish stalwarts that are in Bitcoin. Okay, so a guy like him, as smart as he is to say that, tells me three things. Number one, he hasn't studied Bitcoin. Number two, he has no real understanding for that network. He has no real understanding for the advancement of that network. And then the last piece is that he missed it. Okay, and sometimes when people miss things, they dig in rather than flip over and say, hey, you know what? Bitcoin's really going from 100 to 200,000. I'm going to own some Bitcoin. You miss something, you get emotionally charged and you get defiant. You start pissing into the wind, if you will. And so what we sometimes do is we see something today, and I would make the argument that Bitcoin is in its immaturity. You say, well, how could it be in its immaturity? It went from a 0 cents or 0.1 cents to $90,000 or $100,000. How is it immature? It's immature because it's only saturated by about 5 or 6%. We're in the 90s. We're in the 1998, 1999 period of time in a comparison. And so what happens to these things is they get exponentially better as they get adapted. The speeds, the transferability, you've got something, you've got a piece of software and a network that's going to allow us to transfer value for goods and services in a permissionless way. And yet you've got people that are my age that are railing on it still, don't understand it because they haven't done the homework on it. So that's what's going to cause a lot more of this volatility as we ascend upward.
Anthony Scaramucci remarked that Donald Trump's stance on cryptocurrency is funny, referring to Trump's July speech in which he acknowledged Bitcoin. Scaramucci believes that Eric Trump is the actual Bitcoin lover in the family, having exhibited a thorough mastery of the technology at the Bitcoin conference in Abu Dhabi. Scaramucci admitted that projecting Bitcoin's market success is difficult, particularly given the unpredictable regulatory environment. He mentioned his personal experience, in which he mistakenly projected that the cash or spot ETF for Bitcoin would be approved in February 2022. But Gary Gensler's SEC denied it. Scaramucci ascribed the SEC's actions to an arbitrary and capricious nature, motivated by a desire to avoid criticism over their ties to Sam Bankman-Fried. Scaramucci pointed out the importance of understanding who is in power and how they affect policy. He stated that the Trump administration's Bitcoin policy will most likely be determined by persons such as Howard Lutnick of Commerce and Scott Bent, who have raised worries about Gensler's attitude on cryptocurrency. Anthony Scaramucci predicted that Bitcoin's price may reach $200,000 by the end of 2025, but he also acknowledged the likelihood of volatility along the way. He ascribed the current volatility to some investors' lack of knowledge and emotional responses. Scaramucci compared the cryptocurrency industry to the internet in the 1990s, emphasizing that it still has a lot of space to develop. Let's watch more clips from Anthony Scaramucci's discussion and gain insights.
I think it's the great wave of this cycle. So what I mean by that, if these bull runs are on 4-year cycles and then they have sort of a corrective year, if you will, before they start another bull run, it's a great wave of this cycle, but it's not the last wave. Because if you're 6-7% saturated, you could easily see lots of big waves. There's a reason that Bitcoin should get to eight, $900,000 a coin, and the answer to that is gold. If you believe, which I believe, that Bitcoin is a form of digital gold, it is a store of value like gold. It also could be through stacks and the Lightning Network, a transferable unit of value between all of us. There's no reason why it couldn't trade to the market capitalization of gold. And by the way, it's 0.1% of global assets today as a percentage of assets. So if it gets there, it's like 1.5% of assets. I mean, it's nondescript. Gold has an important function in our society, Austin, but it doesn't run the society. It doesn't move the markets. Okay. You're centered on Bitcoin. I'm centered on Bitcoin because we're in the industry, but it's nascent and it's very small relative to the overall market capitalization of the world. So to me, yes, I think this could be a very big bullish year. I think you probably could get a correction as you go into another halving cycle, but I think there's a big run up. I think the run up starts again, maybe we go to 250, maybe we correct back to 150, and then we're on our way to 500 or 800,000. You tell me though, because the government is a big beast. The government controls a lot of capital and can incentivize capital. If you say to me, hey, it's January 20th, and Donald Trump has signed an executive order through the Dollar Stabilization Act to mandate that the 200,000 tokens, 200,000 coins that are on the balance sheet of the U.S. stays on the balance sheet, and there's a mandate for the Treasury to buy another 300,000 tokens over the next 3 years. You're going to push the price up of Bitcoin, and you're going to cause a daisy chain reaction. That'll cause our economic competitors around the world, our economic allies around the world to start buying Bitcoin as well. So I'm assuming that doesn't happen. Could happen, but if it doesn't happen, I think you get naturally to a 250-ish thousand-dollar rise from here over the next 12 to 24 months. I'm talking about if you're in your 40s and your 50s or younger, you're a Bitcoiner or you're a digital asset person. I do find, particularly for Democrats, if you're 70 or above, Elizabeth Warren, i.e., you're anti-crypto for whatever reason. You're just too old to really understand it, or you're not willing to teach yourself new tricks. So I believe that there is a big enough group of people, and I believe a combination of legislation and executive action gets you some Bitcoin exposure on the balance sheet of the U.S. government beyond what we already have. And so is it what Loomis wants? A million coins bought over 3 to 5 years? I don't know. I mean, 200,000 coins a year sounds like a lot. I don't know. At the time that she made that proposal, Bitcoin was at 75,000. You were like, okay, for 75, $80 billion, you can buy a million coins. But it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. If they make an announcement and they legislate that coin's going to pop, and they may or may not get there, and there may be a regime change for Republicans and Democrats that could slow it down. I don't know. But I do think it's going to happen. And I do think it's going to happen not to the scale that Loomis is saying, but I do think it could happen we're at 200 and we could get ourselves to 500.
Do you think that happens in the first month, or that's a first 2-year thing, or what?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think it's inside of the congressional term of 2 years. I think in the first month, you get some executive action from Trump. And I think in the first month, you get some SEC clarity. Okay. I think in the first 100 days, Trump is going to want to tell people, you're okay with your Bitcoin. I'm protecting your Bitcoin. And I'm also not going to impose a digital dollar on my watch. I'll do everything I can to stop that so that this libertarian idea that's represented by these assets stays in place.
What if you're wrong? What could cause Bitcoin to dip below 70 and you say you were wrong in the short term?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of things. Trump he's a capricious guy. He could reverse course for some reason, or be motivated or incentivized for some reason to reverse course. That would hurt Bitcoin. If you told me that there was something 15 years that hasn't been hacked, I'm not worried about the quantum computing stuff. I mean, Saylor's smarter than I on that issue, but I think and even, Jensen from NVIDIA came out and said, if you're worried about quantum computing, it's 15 to 30 years away. There'll be lots of defenses that will be built up prior to that. but there could be something that I'm missing. What I hate about markets and I hate about life, it's not the things you worry about, Austin. Okay, it's the things that you don't worry about. Okay, it's the things that you think with absolute certainty. Somebody said to me, "What are you worried about, Anthony?" I said, "You know what I'm worried about? I can't find anything to worry about. So I'm worried. I'm worried that I'm missing something in the equation. But there are things that could happen, but I don't think it derails it. And I don't think, listen, I mean, Bitcoin went to 50, and there was a flash at 12,000 during the FTX crisis. I don't know if you remember that. It was in Asia overnight. So it flashed down to 12,000. It popped back up to 17. I think the bankruptcy priced those coins at 16 or 17,000. We're now in the 90s, but I don't think we're even anywhere close to fair value.
Anthony Scaramucci believes that the current bull run in the cryptocurrency market may be the great wave of this cycle, but not the final wave. He believes Bitcoin's potential is huge, considering its current low saturation rate of roughly 6%. Scaramucci draws comparisons between Bitcoin and gold, claiming that if Bitcoin reaches the market capitalization of gold, its price may skyrocket to $900,000 per coin. Scaramucci predicts a major bull run in the coming year, with a potential peak of $250,000, followed by a pullback and another upward cycle. He believes that government measures, like executive orders or legislation, might have a substantial impact on the cryptocurrency market. For example, if the U.S. government mandated the purchase of a specific quantity of Bitcoin, it could set off a chain reaction, with other countries following suit. Scaramucci also believes that demographic factors influence crypto acceptance, with younger generations more open to digital assets. He speculates that some politicians, particularly senior Democrats, may be more averse to cryptocurrency due to a lack of understanding. Anthony Scaramucci points out that anti-crypto folks, such as Elizabeth Warren, are frequently older and less inclined to learn about emerging technologies. He agrees that several variables, including unexpected acts by Trump or other governments, might contribute to a drop in Bitcoin's price below $70,000. However, he is still bullish about Bitcoin's long-term prospects, considering its tenacity in the face of previous crises. Scaramucci also points out that Bitcoin's decentralized nature makes it less susceptible to government manipulation. Scaramucci believes that Trump's administration would adopt a more crypto-friendly approach, including potential executive acts or legislation to strengthen the market. He believes Trump will reassure Bitcoin investors and avoid the introduction of a digital dollar. Scaramucci believes this might occur during the first 100 days of Trump's presidency. Anthony Scaramucci also mentions Senator Cynthia Lummis's suggestion that the U.S. government purchase 1 million Bitcoin coins over 3 to 5 years. While he doubts that this specific idea will be implemented, he does feel that some type of official support for Bitcoin is feasible. Scaramucci observes that the present price of Bitcoin remains low in comparison to its potential value, and that even a tiny injection of government funding may have a huge impact on the market. What do you think is the most significant factor that will drive Bitcoin's price in the next few years? Please drop your thoughts in the comments below, share this video, and hit your thumbs on the like button. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.